Welcome to Rob and Tony's Cinematic Adventure. I'm Rob Wilson.
And I am Tony the Quano.
So, Tony, you know what day is coming up?
I'm not certain. What day is coming up, Rob?
It's Groundhog Day.
Groundhog Day?
Yeah,
Groundhog Day.
Welcome to Rob and Tony's Cinematic Adventure. I'm Rob Wilson.
And I am Tony the Quano.
So, Tony, you know what day is coming up?
I'm not certain. What day is coming up, Rob?
It's Groundhog Day.
Groundhog Day?
Yeah,
Groundhog Day.
Welcome to Rob and Tony's Cinematic Adventure. I'm Rob Wilson.
And I am Tony the Quano.
So, Tony, you know what day is coming up?
I'm not certain. What day is coming up, Rob?
It's Groundhog Day.
Groundhog Day?
Yeah,
Groundhog Day.
Well, the perfect movie to talk about for Groundhog Day is, of course, the Bill Murray classic, the time loop classic, Groundhog Day. The movie where we learn that the only way to truly break out of a time loop is to bang Andie MacDowell.
Wait. I think they make it clear that she just slept in the bed.
Did they? Did they?
This is a curious movie because I saw this movie when I was like 10. Didn't see it in theaters. I saw it when I was like 10 when it came out on video. Thank you, Blockbuster. And yes, there's not a lot of language. It's still a fairly curious PG rating.
Yeah, it is.
We'll get to that. But yes, Andie MacDowell is the key to getting to February 3rd. She is the gatekeeper.
And Bill Murray is the
Keymaster
in this one.
Weaver, and apparently Bill Murray is Rick Moranis.
Yep. So, yeah. So it has been quite a while since I saw this movie.
Same.
Well, I mean, I watched it maybe 2-3 years ago, but before that, it had been decades since I'd seen it.
Okay. It's been decades for me. I would say this is my third time watching the entire movie. I might be wrong. It might be only my second. Maybe it's the fourth. I don't know.
I think it was my third time watching it. The entire movie this time.
It's one of those movies though where there are certain scenes that are just embedded that most people probably know. Mm-hmm. And if you've seen it, just stick with you regardless. And it's one that, it's on, off, enough that you probably caught other parts. And it's funny, there's certain scenes that have stuck with me because they aren't the ones that you might go to right away.
And also,
there's a few, I think, because I remember them on the TV spot. Because, it was on, it came out, I was not 10 when it came out, but I watched enough TV at the time to see a bunch of TV ads for it. And it's like, oh, it's that maybe it's called Groundhog Day, where you repeat Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
Right.
Also, there are several scenes that are very memorable that just get stuck in your brain because they replay the same scene over and over.
Well, that's it. Yes. And usually, with some slight variation.
But yeah, it's a Bill Murray classic. It's a funny movie. I enjoy it.
And it works on multiple levels. One level is Chris Elliott. He had not quite yet become a cabin boy.
Nope, he had not become a cabin boy yet.
Nor did he become Allison Hannigan's father in How I Met Your Mother.
Nope. And he hadn't yet developed a strong hand.
No. It's actually kind of a curious role for him because, it's not overly comedic. Except maybe for the end, he gets one scene where he gets to kind of awkwardly act.
Yeah.
Kind of funny. In kind of more of a general Chris Elliott kind of way.
Yeah.
It's got Andie MacDowell, which I think this is appropriate because her daughter, Margaret Qualley, is currently in The Substance, which has gotten a lot of attention in the award season. And Demi Moore is really the one that's gaining a lot of in terms of acting, but she's very good in it too. And so, just kind of a side note. Anyway, so I actually watched The Substance. It's actually crazy, bizarre movie.
I have not watched that one yet.
So, people like body horror movies, you would like The Substance. So,
that's what I've heard.
If you want to relive Demi Moore's glory days and watch Dennis Quaid eat shrimp, we'd also like The Substance.
I mean, Dennis Quaid eating shrimp, that is some top tier cinema.
But yeah, so back to Groundhog Day though. where you just have Bill Murray eating donuts and Andie MacDowell thinking she's too good for Bill Murray, who thinks he's too good for everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got the cameraman and Chris Elliott.
And then you get Stephen Tobolowsky, dropping into the scenes.
Who is brilliant in this movie.
He really is. He really is.
He's absolutely brilliant. I love him in this. And, it's funny. Like, he's one where he pretty much just has the same lines, the same scene, just done over and over and over again. Yep. And you love him for it. I mean, he's terrific. There is another common actor that we actually have in this.
Yes,
he just keeps showing up. Rick Ducommun.
Yes, Rick Ducommun. And I was wondering when he showed up in here, is it possible? Because he plays Gus in this. Is it possible that Walt, Art, and Gus are all the same person?
They might be.
He just keeps on moving and changing his name. Maybe he's in the witness protection program.
Yeah, and then these things happen. Mm-hmm. He has to move.
Yeah.
Nakatomi Plaza, all over the news. And you know what?
Yep.
They're going with Tom Hanks.
Oh, wait. Yeah, serial killers next door? Yeah, I gotta move. Time loop.
And now, someone just relived February 2nd for 700 years.
Oh, it's not 700 years.
Well, they never say how long.
But someone has. I'm glad you brought up how long, because I was actually doing a little bit of research on this, and someone actually crunched the numbers.
Okay.
Took all the days that were mentioned. All the I think it shows 38 days in the movie itself.
Yeah, but there's more that actually.
No, there's more. There's like another 414 that are mentioned in there, and then you got all the things that he learns: the piano, ice sculpture, French poetry, all this stuff.
Piano,
and where it takes 10,000 hours, give or take, to master a skill. And so people put all that together, and the number that they came up with was 33 years, 350 days.
All right.
That he relived this one day.
And what's remarkable about this is that he never ages.
No, he doesn't.
I get the other people not aging.
No, but I mean, it would make sense for him to not age, though, because each time that he woke up, he was starting that day over again.
Yeah.
So his body would physically.
His brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you could say his brain did age because, he was able to retain all these skills that he learned.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Like, yeah, it had to be able to remember all of that and remember the proper way to woo Andie MacDowell.
Yeah.
And learn that, I shouldn't move too quickly. Or she's just going to think he just wants to get in my pants so he can get out February 2nd. Mm-hmm. He also learns everyone's backstory in the diner.
Yes, he does.
That's, I mean, that takes days. Mm-hmm. Right? He's got to be able to spend the time each day on different people.
Yep.
To know it. And to memorize kind of the exact things that happen. Mm-hmm. And to remember all the exact, there's plenty of little details that would be easily forgotten the next day, but you got to kind of continue to remember them and pay attention to them.
Yeah.
So maybe they moved him after this movie as well.
Maybe.
He repeated too many days.
I mean, we'll have to see if we do another movie with him.
You're going to become Henry in Blank Check.
He very well might.
Or you're going to become Coach Marlowe in MVP, Most Valuable Primate.
The second episode that we have mentioned MVP, Most Valuable Primate. Why were there so many animal sports movies in the 90s?
I don't know. It's weird because you got them. You had a bunch in the early 90s. We recently discussed Mighty Ducks, right? We've discussed The Sandlot, and we've mentioned others like Little Big League, Rookie of the Year, Little Giants, which we have not mentioned, was another one. The Big Green, if you want something that was soccer, right? And that was all. Most of those were like the early to mid 90s. As he moved to the mid to late 90s, then it became the
animal sports,
which you would think that kids playing sports would be a far better movie to watch.
You would think, but nope, animals can do it too. And then, I mean, that's just the animal sports movies. You also have just the general animal movies.
Well, then Dunstan checks in.
Yes, exactly. I was just about to mention that one. Monkey Trouble.
I saw both of them at a camp at a Methodist church.
Yeah, I saw Dunstan Checks In. I never saw Monkey Trouble.
Listen, if I want to see hilarious animals doing things, I want to watch it in an animated movie.
Yeah.
Silly panda bears, fine. Kung Fu Panda.
Mm-hmm.
Fish, fine. Finding Nemo, right? Lions acting out Hamlet, fine. The Lion King.
Yeah. Nobody acts out Hamlet like a lion, like a cartoon lion.
But do I want to watch lions playing ice hockey? No.
Mm-mm. No. We want to watch
a movie where
we want to watch a bunch of ducks
wins a bowling championship. No.
Yeah, we want to watch a bunch of ducks playing ice hockey in the form of kids.
Exactly. There were other animal movies, but like at least like Free Willy, like Willy, is just a regular animal.
Yeah,
it just wants to be free.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Did Willy want to be free?
I don't know.
Or did the kid just think that Willy wanted to be free? I mean, Willy was getting fed anytime he wanted. I mean, sure, his fin was flopped over, but I mean,
But yeah, they had to do with Lori Patty, and strangely enough, he's in that movie, which I never, I don't think I realized until much later. I wouldn't have realized it because I've only seen it like one time.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Madsen is in Free Willy.
Michael Madsen is in Free Willy. He is indeed in Free Willy. I used to love that movie.
Yeah, we should get Tim Robinson on for Free Willy. He loves Free Willy.
We should get Tim on.
He adopted a little humpback whale when he was a kid.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we should get him on for Free Willy sometime if we ever decide to do Free Willy.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a movie that like I think most people kind of remember, but you don't have like strong memories of it. You just kind of remember they existed. You remember the whale jumping,
yes,
the kid raising his fist in the air.
Yeah, but they never explain. I mean, I guess there's sequels, so I mean, they do kind of explain what happened next, but they never explain how Willy was able to survive in the wild after being in captivity for so long.
Right. No, animals tend to have a problem if they are born and bred and raised in captivity. Yeah.
They usually have a problem acclimating to like their natural habitat.
That orca has no idea how to hunt.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's gonna be searching just for regular like fish, and then like he doesn't realize he's supposed to be like hunt seal.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't realize like he's like at the top of the fucking food chain.
Yeah, he's gonna get too close to a fishing boat.
There's that too.
And think that somebody's gonna toss him fish, but he's gonna end up in a can of tuna.
Well, several cans of tuna.
Yeah.
Hey, at least whoever eats that thing, it's a lot less mercury content.
Yeah, true.
Whoever eats it anyway. But enough about Free Willy.
Yeah, I never really thought we'd be talking about Free Willy on a Groundhog Day episode.
No. I mean, it's probably been like 27 years or something like that since the late 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Probably even beyond that because I don't remember watching it in high school. So anyway, back to Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
Directed by Harold Ramis.
Yes.
And like, there's so many aspects we can talk about this that don't involve. Well, there is an animal in this movie.
Yes, there is. The titular groundhog
makes several appearances in this movie.
Punxsutawney Phil.
Beyond just looking for his shadow, he makes some appearances.
Yes, he does.
So, but there's multiple things we can talk about because there is. The length of time that he spends there and what he learns and what he doesn't learn and how to get out of it. And or we can just say, it's just a straight up funny movie. It's also existential. It's not totally Waiting for Godot.
No, but really what is Waiting for Godot? No, so it's like, what is it?
You know what? Strangely enough, you know what introduced me to Waiting for Godot?
Mm-hmm.
Home Improvement.
Oh, yeah? Tim
Allen was supposed to go to see Waiting for Godot.
He was.
And he decided to try to sell hockey tickets.
Yes.
But then
I remember that episode.
Dusted. Yeah.
Yep, he got arrested for scalping tickets. Yep.
What white person in Michigan gets arrested for scalping tickets?
In Detroit, Michigan.
Anyhow. Interesting enough about this movie, though, is I obviously would not have realized it at the time, but it's the movie that soured the relationship between Bill Murray and Harold Ramis.
Is this the one that did it?
Yes. Harold Ramis wanted to be more specifically just kind of straight comedic. Bill Murray saw like, there's like so much more depth to this. And how Bill Murray wanted to be more focused on kind of the philosophical underpinnings, right? And yeah, so they disagreed and they had friction. And yeah. And they never totally really reconciled. That's why we never really got Ghostbusters 3.
Because of that fissure.
So I guess we kind of got Ghostbusters 3, but not a true Ghostbusters 3.
Yeah. Because of that fissure between the two of them.
This fissure wasn't here before.
No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't, Clark. It definitely was not here.
What high school senior uses the word fissure when he sees a crack in a wall?
Well, yeah, no. At least in terms of a crack in a cave, like, no. It was a fissure in that setting. Anyhow, I also didn't realize, though, like, it makes sense. So the producers and the filmmakers were sued or attempted to be sued by a couple different people because they had a story about someone caught in a time loop because that had never been thought of before.
Yeah. Yeah. Or all the times that it was thought of before, is it because it's a time loop?
There you go.
And it was really just thought of once, but it was, looped. So it appeared to be over and over and over. Like to the rest of the world, it was just once, but to them, it was.
I've never thought of it that way. I like that, but kind of because of it, like Groundhog Day itself, like you can say, oh yeah, it's kind of become just a term that's like in the vernacular now. It's like, oh yeah, it's Groundhog Day. It's that experience of experiencing the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah, but what was it that sparked? Let's make a movie with a time loop take place on Groundhog Day. I mean, there's nothing really in Groundhog Day, like the day, that indicates any sort of like time loop would happen.
Right. Maybe like the idea is like if you're going to be stuck within a time loop on a particular holiday.
What would be the most annoying holiday to be reliving over and over again?
Groundhog Day. But what if it's not in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania? Like,
yeah. What
if you just happen to be in, let's say Scottsbluff, Nebraska?
Yeah. There ain't no groundhog there that sees its shadow or doesn't see its shadow. And I never really understood the whole Groundhog Day thing anyway. If the groundhog sees its shadow, there's 6 more weeks of winter. But if it doesn't see the shadow, then spring's going to come in 6 weeks. So it's still 6 weeks, 6 more weeks of winter. Either way.
It is. Like, I don't know how they got tied into that, how it became a thing. I know there's apparently there's some type of stupid groundhog in like Georgia also. It's not nearly as famous as Phil, but
yeah.
I mean, Groundhog Day helped make Groundhog Day even more popular.
Yeah.
It was already kind of a popular thing, but I don't know. Just random one to choose. And what's kind of annoying about the movie, no, I shouldn't say annoying, but disappointing, I should say, is that the movie was not actually filmed in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. It is filmed in Illinois.
That's kind of upsetting.
Now, the town where they filmed it has started making a big deal out of Groundhog Day because of Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
And, they kind of do a whole celebration, and they, like, February 2nd, they show the movie. I don't know if they show the movie on a loop on Groundhog Day. You technically should be showing Groundhog Day on a loop. That's
the thing. Like, I'm surprised. I'm very surprised that TBS hasn't started doing that. Like they do the 24-hour marathon of A Christmas Story. Do a 24-hour marathon of Groundhog Day on Groundhog Day. That way it's looping.
And the thing is,
all throughout the day.
It actually wouldn't get old either, because like you watch it and the next one's like, oh, I need to watch that scene that I saw for the 5th time within the movie. I need to watch it truly again for the first time to see what's different about that day compared to the other days. Yeah. Because like you spend a lot of the movie like after you've seen it a few times trying to see, oh yeah, like what's a little bit different about each scene.
Yeah.
Like you know some of the main stuff, but you start looking in the background.
Yeah.
What's changing in the background?
And if there's one movie to put on a loop on a particular day, it would be Groundhog Day.
Absolutely. But
they don't do it.
No one asked us.
Mm-hmm.
We were also in grade school.
Yeah, but
so. I mean, I knew who Bill Murray was when it came out. I guess, yeah, I'd seen Ghostbusters. So, but I didn't know Andie MacDowell. Didn't know Chris Elliott.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I didn't even see it until it's like late 90s, early 2000s for the first time.
Okay. Yeah.
It was either like 99 or like 2000.
Hey, listen, like, I wouldn't show this to a 9-year-old, this movie.
Yeah.
I know it's PG.
Yeah.
But there is actually, like, we'll fall into it. We talked about it, but there's actually, like, some sex, not just, like, kind of...
Yeah, that's how he gets out of the time loop.
Even before that. The first time he has it's, like, with the wrong woman.
Yeah. She didn't get him out of the time loop.
Nancy Taylor, Marita Garrett,
yep.
She didn't get him out of it.
Nope.
Hey, who knows? Maybe he tried with Chris Elliott.
Maybe.
Chris Elliott didn't get out of it. And there's a lot of...
He was trapped in that day for, 33 years or so.
And, we'll get into the specifics, but there's also plenty of times where he tries to kill himself. So, yeah. Oh, there's also, he isn't actually drunk drive in this movie.
No, he doesn't.
He's the designated driver.
And almost drives right into the path of a train.
Anyhow, yeah. So, man, it was
right
not
into
all
a train.
But
yeah.
Curious PG, in my opinion. So... And by the time you saw it, it already kind of, I hesitate to use cult classic, but because it was a hit, it wasn't a huge hit, but it was a hit. And it just kind of continued to become a classic, which is what it is today. So, outside of the Ghostbusters movies and Caddyshack, it's probably one of the most recognizable Bill Murray movies.
Yep.
Which, by the way, you should go back and listen to Ghostbusters. We have covered a Bill Murray movie.
Yes, we have.
You can also catch Dante's Peak, our last episode, where we reference Most Valuable Primate the first time.
Yes.
I will be very surprised if we reference Most Valuable Primate in our next movie.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't. That was 2 episodes ago.
That's 2. Oh, yeah, it was 2 episodes ago. That's right.
Yeah. But anyway.
Anyhow, so yeah, I guess we can get into it.
Let's get into it. So, as always, before we get started, even though this movie is now...
Don't say that. 30
a long time
years old.
Really, it's old.
Yeah. By the time the Groundhog comes out of his stupid tree stump,
it
will be 31 years old. Because they did release this movie to be released at, they did a premiere in Western PA, the movie, and then it was released wide right after Groundhog Day. Anyway.
And it would be 32 years old.
Oh, yeah. That's right. It's 2020. It's 2025
now.
I keep forgetting. Yeah.
But yeah, this movie's old. But yeah. So even though it is old and many people have seen it, still, for those that haven't, we don't want to spoil things for you. So spoiler alert, we are going to be talking about this entire movie, beginning, middle, and end. So if you have not seen it and you don't want to be spoiled, pause the podcast, watch the movie, come back and listen. If you have seen it or you just don't mind spoilers, then keep on listening. But you have been warned. The same stuff happens over and over in this movie. With little slight twists.
With slight variations. But there's tremendous growth.
Yes, there is tremendous growth. So we start out
with your basic local weathercast.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You have Bill Murray standing in front of a blue screen talking about the weather. We find out pretty quickly that Bill Murray plays Phil, a meteorologist.
Did they say he's a meteorologist or is he just a weatherman that reports what the meteorologist tells him?
He may just be the weatherman. True.
I don't know. He's kind of a smart guy, though. He's just very cynical. He could be a meteorologist.
He could be. Either way, he's the weatherman on the local news in Pennsylvania. Where do they ever say where in Pennsylvania they're from? Because they're not from Punxsutawney.
Pittsburgh.
Is it Pittsburgh? Yeah, that's right. It is Pittsburgh.
Yeah, you see pictures of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it is Pittsburgh. Okay,
after this, they dereference kind of other things. So, what's funny about this first part, Bill Murray's jokes come rapid fire.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they do.
It's kind of hard to keep up with them because, he says, he wants to be right in Elko, Nevada, where it's 79. Which I'm not sure it would be 79 in Elko in early February because it's in that part of Nevada where kind of up in the elevation. And then he starts talking about California being sunny with gang wars and overpriced real estate.
Yeah.
Even 30 years ago, that was a joke.
Yep.
And the Pacific Northwest has some very tall trees. And James Bond and Sarah Connor fighting a volcano.
Yes.
And Grant Heslov just dreaming about coffee.
Loving coffee and everything that goes into it.
And then finally he talks about some cold front that's coming through towards western Pennsylvania. But he's talking about moisture in the Gulf of Mexico that's going to meet up. And that this storm's going to miss Pittsburgh and blow off towards Altoona. Even though most storms that kind of come across Pittsburgh typically hit most of the other places in western Pennsylvania.
Usually. Yeah. So after his weather report, we learn that he is supposed to go with his producer and cameraman to Punxsutawney to cover the Groundhog Day celebration, where they get Punxsutawney Phil, the groundhog, to find out if he sees his shadow or not.
So this is February 1st, because they say he's going tomorrow.
Yep.
Right. And it's a remote that he does. I think he says this will be his 4th year. The anchor is this is your 3rd year. He's like, no, it's my 4th.
Yeah. And he's very excited about it too.
Oh, you can tell.
You can tell he loves this trip.
I love this entire setup. Like I don't watch a lot of local news anymore, but it feels like what local news was like in the mid 90s.
Yep.
It feels like exactly what Anchorman was kind of spoofing.
Yep.
And it's kind of spoofing itself, right?
Yeah.
Because, they do that. And then, he gives like the 5-day like forecast, right? He says, I'm going tomorrow. And he kind of gives the whole thing. And then he says, okay. They say like, he tells thanks to the anchor and he walks off the set. And he kind of go back to her. He's like, next, sex and violence in the movies.
Yes.
And this movie has both.
Yes, it does.
But yeah, his producer, as we kind of mentioned earlier, is Andie MacDowell, and the cameraman is Chris Elliott.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not exactly
Rita and Larry
mean to them, but he's not nice. And Andie MacDowell, I can tell she's like a new producer, and she has other aspirations potentially.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and Bill Murray, he's not he's not a mean guy. He's full of himself. Really, he's
yes.
He's famous. He's a famous weatherman, and or locally famous weatherman.
He's set on Al Roker.
Yeah,
you know what? I'm coming for you.
He's a locally famous weatherman that has let it get to his head a bit.
What's funny about it, though, right? I'm glad you bring this. Because he's a locally famous weatherman. It does sound like it's out of Anchorman.
Yeah, true.
Whereas Anchorman is, very. It's different. Like Bill Murray plays it kind of straight, within kind of a serious, a straight movie. But they're also kind of spoofing it a bit.
Yeah.
Whereas Anchorman is just straight up. It's a spoof, but Will Ferrell plays it straight.
Yep.
While also spoofing it. So anyway, yeah. So he's full of himself, and he thinks he's better than that job or other people. He thinks he's better than Pittsburgh because you get the shots of Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah.
That's what they're saying. Like, they start, you kind of go to when they leave, they all get in their news van. And his whole plan is like they're going to drive up there, and they drive there that day.
They drive up there that day
because they sleep up there at night, right? Which
they get in that
important
little
that they
bed
drive
and breakfast
that day.
And
they drive up there that day instead of February 2nd and getting up early. They drive there that day. Yeah, so you get they get the exterior shots, and they drive through the countryside of like Western PA, and they arrive in Punxsutawney. And
the plan is
this is Rita Hansen, and this is her first time doing it, right? Because she's new to the station. So again, like we said, Bill has done this. This is his 4th time doing it, and she's kind of enamored in the town.
Yeah,
it's cute.
It's a a quaint small town.
Yes, they have one thing that they do that kind of makes them kind of popular.
Yeah.
And they're proud of it.
On February 2nd of every year, they go to Gobbler's Knob.
They get several dudes that are dressed to the nines. They got freaking top hats on.
Yes.
Top hats and canes. And then they take a cane and they wrap on a tree stump. Open a door. There's a door.
There's a door in a tree stump. Yeah. But yeah, it's a Gobbler's Knob, if we haven't mentioned that already. Gobbler's Knob, folks. Which makes you wonder, is the Groundhog Day celebration really at Gobbler's Knob in real life?
I don't know.
I've never been to Punxsutawney, so I don't know if there's a Gobbler's Knob there.
I've never been there either.
I think at this point, we're just trying to see how many times we can say Gobbler's Knob in this episode.
Why is it Gobbler's Knob? That sounds like a trick.
No, exactly. Exactly. It sounds like it should be like a Thanksgiving movie that takes place at Gobbler's Knob.
No, it is a place. The Gobbler's Knob Visitor Center in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania.
Okay, there we go.
How did Gobbler's Knob get its name? According to the sign, the name Gobbler's Knob has 2 potential origins. The first is the area is once home to a large group of turkeys called rafters. Wait, is a group of turkeys called a rafter? And why is that a rafter?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Rafter. Yeah, a group of turkeys is a rafter.
The second is that the name comes from the traditional act of gobbling up woodland creatures after a hunt.
Okay.
But interesting enough, and we'll get into the other details of this later, but in July 1966, Gobbler's Knob was officially opened year-round to the public. So it was not open year-round to the public before 1966?
Well, 1966. When was the whole Groundhog celebration?
That's
when did that start?
Anyway.
Because that started in 1966, and that makes sense.
About his home, but we'll save that for Groundhog Day. Right now it's February 1st.
Yes.
We got to get the February 2nd first.
Yes.
So they arrive, and like there's an, there's kind of the downtown section, and there's a kind of oldish hotel there, and
a little bed and
that's
breakfast.
not where Phil wants to stay. So, she gets him, because she's a producer, she can get him what he wants. He's the star, right? And so Rita books him at this quaint bed and breakfast, which is really not that quaint. I mean, it's kind of quaint, but, like some bed and breakfasts are kind of like more towards that 5-star level.
No, but this
is like, 2 to 3 stars, probably right around 3.
Yeah.
Right in the middle. It does what it needs to do, but it's got a charming old lady running it.
Yes, it does.
And they all go off and they get ready for the next day, because the plan is that the next day
they wake up
to
go
do the remote. They wake up, they do a little remote, and then they watch the Groundhog thing, and then pack up and go home.
That's not planning on staying the entire day. They just get the job done and go home.
And I forgot to mention this. They do talk kind of in the van as they're driving, right? So it's like a news van. I think people get that picture, right? And the cameraman, Chris Elliott, or Larry is his name. He's just Larry the cameraman. We don't learn his last name.
Larry the cameraman,
he's
the
driving.
Precursor to Larry
Bill
the cable guy.
Is sitting shotgun, and you have Rita in the kind of the back, like a jump seat type of thing, right? Because they have all this equipment back there. So it's not like your typical benches or whatever. And she's just talking like, oh yeah, I think it's gonna be cute. Like he's got this cute little nose. Right? And Phil's even just kind of mocking the idea that he's cute. They're having nice banter, but at the same time, it's not like they're most friendly to each other.
Yeah.
So that's what he said. That's the line. Like, I hate this place. I stayed here 2 years ago. I was miserable. It's a flea bag. I'm not staying here. Right? And that's what she's like, yeah, I booked you a nice bed and breakfast. Right? It's like, I think this is and I like how he says, like, this is a trait of a good producer, to keep the talent happy. He's like, oh, anything I can do. And this is the first time we get a clue that he wants to get in her pants.
There's stuff she can do for him.
Well, he wants her to help him with his pelvic tilt.
He wants her to get him out of this time loop that's coming up.
That's also true. Right? And then that was the thing. That was kind of how they ended on. Where it's like, oh, do you want to give me this for dinner? Like, again, it's the 3 of them. They don't know anyone else in town.
Yeah.
It's like, let's get dinner. It's like, no, I've seen Larry eat. I went forward a few months and saw how the Velociraptors, eat a cow. That's how Larry eats.
Yeah.
I don't want to watch that.
Yeah. Yeah. So he decides to go to his little room at the bed and breakfast and go to bed early.
Yep. And then, we don't get anything. Like, the next time we can see, he wakes up. What I like about this when he wakes up, he's a very neat sleeper.
Yes.
He sleeps on his back. He's tucked in up towards his neck. He's got a sheet, comforter, and blanket on. Nothing's ruffled. It's like he hasn't turned at all during the night. And it's like one of the enduring images for me for this movie is that bedside clock.
Yes.
With the flip numbers.
With the flip numbers. Clock. Yep. It's got the flip numbers on it. And he wakes up.
It turns to 6 a.m.
Yes.
He has his alarm set for 6 a.m.
And I like that he doesn't have his alarm set on an alarm. He has it set on the radio.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
you know what, Phil? Cheers to you, Phil. Much better to wake up to music or talk than just some stupid beep, 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 beep.
Alarms, like waking up to an alarm like that just pisses me off. And I don't like waking up pissed off. So I always have my alarm set for a radio.
Depends on, I'm sure some people want to, I imagine if you woke up to something like Slipknot, or I should wake, you know what? I never thought about this. I should wake up to Limp Bizkit.
Interesting.
Keep rolling. I can see someone just waking up the Creed. Can you take me?
Can you take me higher?
Anyhow, and so what he wakes up to, though, he's just setting into whatever the local radio station is, and probably whatever the person that had that room before, whatever they had the radio set to.
Yep.
It's a small town. It's probably one radio station.
This is his 4th year there. So, in those 4 years, he may have learned the radio stations. That's
a good point. Anyway, he wakes up to Sonny and Cher.
Yep.
But it's like the end of I've Got You, Babe, right? Because again, it's at a certain time. So you're going to go into whatever's actually on the radio at that time.
Yeah.
It's not like now where you can just go ahead, like you're going to set to whatever playlist you might have and say, I'm going to wake up to this song, right? No, it's just whatever's on the radio at that time. And then, they had the two radio hosts that come on and they're like, it's Groundhog Day, right?
Yep, and then they start talking about the weather, and then...
And it's like, you can expect hazardous travel with that blizzard thing, and it'll be just like two wacky radio guys in a small town.
Mm-hmm.
Are being kind of sarcastic about things, and it's like, the blizzard thing, and here's the report. The National Weather Service is calling for a big blizzard thing.
A big blizzard thing.
And then, I like how Phil just kind of responds. He's like,
yep.
Everyone has one question on their lips. And he's like, they're chapped lips. It's like, will the groundhog see a shadow? Right? So he's in his jammies, right? And, he gets ready and he gets in his suit and gets out of his room. And
look, didn't he take a shower first? A cold shower?
He did take a cold shower. Yeah. That's right.
He gets in the shower and finds out the hard way that there's no hot water.
Yes. Again, this is not the top of the line bed and breakfast. And you know what? There's a lot of bed and breakfast that you just have to kind of roll with being in an old building.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like, I would imagine on this day, there are other tourists that are there. So, like, they probably have more just other people in the bed and breakfast, not just like couples or whatever. And you might have in the bed and breakfast. So it's probably all full up to see the groundhog. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So he gets out of his room. So the guy comes in. It's like, off to see the groundhog.
Yeah, not just any guy. That is Ken Hudson Campbell playing Man in the Hall.
Oh, yeah. Good. I was looking for his name earlier, and I didn't see it. And, like, here it is in the first line.
Yeah. Yeah. He plays Man in Hallway, Ken Hudson Campbell, who has been in many things. He's been in a lot of movies. He played Max in Armageddon.
So long, Max. He was a biker in Coyote Ugly.
Yes, he was. He was also...
Maybe his most famous role outside of this was Home Alone.
Yes.
He was Santa.
Indeed. He was Santa in Home Alone.
He gave Kevin some Tic Tacs.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Dr. Doodle, too. But he's been in a bunch of TV series.
Yes, he has.
Seinfeld, Duckman, all of your monsters.
And, I mean, he was in The Ladies' Man. He played a character with hair plugs in The Ladies' Man.
His name is Hal. Tim Meadows. I missed 90s Saturday Night Live.
Yep.
By the way, since we're on the subject of some of the other actors in this, the radio guys are Richard Hensel and Rob Riley. And I guess this makes sense because, like, it says Richard Hensel is Chicago-based stage, film, TV, and voiceover actor. So he's Chicago. That's filmed in, like, northern Illinois. And he's a voiceover actor.
Yep.
It's great. I mean, you completely think that he's some local radio guy.
Yeah.
So,
and I hate to break it to you, but the groundhog that played Phil, the groundhog Phil, Punxsutawney Phil. Well, I'm sure he is now. I'm not quite, sure about the lifespan of a groundhog, but I'm guessing it's not 32 years.
It's kind of like when we were talking about Air Bud a few weeks ago. Like,
yeah,
that's the most depressing thing. Like, Air Bud's dead.
Yeah, but no, the groundhog, Punxsutawney Phil.
It's not Punxsutawney Phil.
His real name is Scooter.
Oh, there it is. Punxsutawney Phil is portrayed as a groundhog known as Scooter. If they can train that groundhog to come out once a year, can't he just appear in the movie? Was his asking fee too high?
I don't know, but they had to get a groundhog named Scooter to play Phil.
Anyway, man,
and it didn't even come out. They opened the door and then picked it up and pulled it out.
Yes, we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Anyway, man in the hallway is like, off to see the groundhog. And Phil wants nothing to do with this guy. Yep. He gets down and you get the nice proprietor or the manager. Maybe she's not the proprietor, maybe she's just the manager.
Yes, Mrs. Lancaster. Mrs. Lancaster, played by Angela Patton.
Who was, I actually looked this up earlier. I'm glad you brought her up because she was in the American Wedding. That's not what I was thinking about her being in. It was something else.
She was in Joe Dirt.
Yep, the wedding singer. Anyway, so she's very nice. Very sweet lady.
Very sweet lady.
I would love just to stay at her place.
Yeah.
Drink her crappy coffee. But because she's nice, I would love to stay there.
Yes.
And she asked him just very like, did you sleep well?
Yeah.
She's like, I slept alone. Rita did not come to bed at breakfast with me.
But after I relive this day, a few thousand, tens of thousands of times.
Years, she will. So, and then, she asked if you want some coffee. And he's like, I want, can I get an espresso or a cappuccino? And I was just like, I really don't know. Like, she's never heard of it.
I mean, she's from a small town in Pennsylvania, so.
And she's like 80 years old. Like, yeah, no, she's not with it. She's not hip. She doesn't have the internet yet where she can look these things up.
Yep.
Right?
Maybe if she lived in like a small town in Washington, like outside of Seattle or something like that, then she might have heard of cappuccino.
She doesn't have Sarah Connor helping her with this.
No, she doesn't.
Grant Heslov.
No.
And of course, Phil just being Phil, instead of being nice about it, when she says, I don't know, he's like, how to spell espresso or cappuccino? And again, like, at the beginning of this movie, you get these jokes, rapid kind of fire jokes coming from Bill Murray. And it's different than last week we did Dumb and Dumber. No. It's a very different
it is very different because Bill Murray delivers these lines and these jokes in that dry manner that only Bill Murray can do.
Oh, yes. Yes, it's true. This man
has no
dick. She sleeps above the covers. 4 feet above the covers. Yeah, no, it's the way he does it. And he's a master. And he's just perfect. And you get where you got to play into comedy and you can kind of play into the other aspects of this movie. Yeah. So it's like, he's about to leave. She's like, I hope you enjoy the festivities. He's like, oh yeah, I'm sure I will. He's like, there's talk of a blizzard. Just feels like she knows he's a weatherman, right? So she's going to talk the weather, especially if a blizzard's coming.
Yep.
And he gives the same line. He's like, oh, I think it's going to blow off this way. We're going to miss it, right?
Spoiler alert.
No,
they don't miss it.
Yes, they don't miss it.
Yeah, so he goes to walk out to Gobbler's Knob. And
he gets out there and he can hear the music.
Even before that, he's walking down the street and he gets a visit from Stephen Tobolowsky.
He walks outside the bed and breakfast and he kind of walks down the streets a little bit and then he gets down to the main center and he meets somebody.
Yeah. Phil Connors? And Stephen Tobolowsky comes over, and he clearly recognizes Phil, and he asks him if he recognizes him, and he's like,
"What's funny about this situation is
Ned Ryerson." They knew each other years ago.
At first, he's like, thanks for watching. He just thinks it's some guy that sees him on TV and is actually excited to see him, but he's annoying.
Well, no, it's somebody he knew years ago.
Back in high school. Needle Nose Ned? Ned the Head? Case Western High? I did the whistling belly button trick. Bing!
Bing! Yeah, that's right. He keeps saying bing!
And again, it gets back. You get the dryness of Bill Murray, and then you get
just the
you get Stephen Tobolowsky just going full force into it.
Stephen Tobolowsky is
which is funny because he's not actually a
movie.
comedian.
Yeah,
he's just a character actor.
He's just a character actor, but he nails it. He nails it. He is fantastic in this movie.
By the way, this is not our first movie with him. We did Memento.
Yes,
he plays
we did.
Lenny.
Yep.
One of our first episodes.
Well, no, he didn't play Lenny. He played
Lenny.
No, go back and listen to the Memento episode.
Sammy Jenkins.
Yes, Sammy Jenkins.
Sammy Jenkins.
Yes, Sammy Jenkins.
Lenny's Guy Pearce, but
Guy
Pearce and him are obviously interlinked. Anyhow, he's a character, but he's hilarious.
Yeah,
and I love it because he's got tan trench coat on, and he's got his hat, he's got the glasses, and he's nerdy, and he's got the shingle senior year and almost didn't graduate.
But it turns out that he is an insurance salesman, and he's trying to sell Phil insurance while they're walking and talking. And
I like the note that he's like, I almost forget. It's almost funny. He does not remember this. I dated your sister until he told me not to.
That's right. That's right.
And he's an insurance salesman. It feels like, what a shock.
So then Phil goes to take
Am I right? Or am I right? Or am I right?
Yeah, am I right? Or am I right? Am I right? Well, he's doing a little punch in him.
And, Phil, he's just trying to, he's like, I gotta go. And Ned's like, I'll walk with you.
They walk on the sidewalk a little bit, then Phil goes to turn to step off the curb.
Yeah, they get to the end of the block. He's
and there's
across the street to
giant.
He's gonna cross the Gobbler's Knob.
Yeah, there's a puddle, and he steps into the puddle. It turns out it's a big pothole, and his foot goes down into
it's
it.
the corner of the corner there, where the intersection of the street by the crosswalk. There's a big pothole by the gutter.
Yeah, and then then we get Ned is like, watch that first step. It's a doozy.
It's a doozy. Right, so they get in there, and they got the Pennsylvania polka playing as he's walking across, and and then Home Alone comes John Candy.
Yep.
Very big. Very big.
Yep. It turns out that the polka band that's playing is the Kenosha Kickers.
No, it's not the Kenosha Kickers. Sorry, it's somebody else.
It should be the Kenosha Kickers.
Yes. Right, and then he ends up Rita calls him over. He finds them, and they start their remote. And again, he's not the most enthused about doing this. He knows what to say. So they keep going. It's like, once a year, the eyes of the nation, excuse me, they turn on this tiny Pennsylvania hamlet to watch a master at work. Again, he's being his dry, Bill Murray, his dry, sarcastic self.
Yep.
Perfect. The master, Punxsutawney Phil. I love you kind of cut back. It's you have him, and you kind of see Rita and Larry, and Rita's loving it. Like, she's seeing everything, the music, how the people are dressed. She's into this. It's like, the world's most famous weather band, right? It's like, the question we have to ask ourselves today is, does Phil feel lucky? And we should finally actually touch on this point that the Groundhog's name is Phil.
Yes.
Our main character's name is Phil.
Yes. Is our main character actually a groundhog in a Bill Murray costume?
Is Bill Murray actually the groundhog and not Scooter?
Yeah.
Does Bill Murray get into a groundhog costume?
It could be. Does Bill Murray's face open up and there's a groundhog, a little tiny groundhog at the controls behind his face, just like Men in Black?
Just like Men in Black. To prevent war.
The galaxy is on Orion's.
What's his word?
His word.
It's a leash. Anyway.
It's a collar, not a belt.
It's a collar. Yes. Yeah, it's not a leash. He's not attached. It's a collar.
It's a collar, not a belt.
You don't walk a cat. An alien might walk a cat. That's how you know there's the alien. It's walking a cat.
Yep.
Anyway. We'll probably do Men in Black one day.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure we will.
I think we'll probably do it during this year's summer blockbuster series.
Very well might happen. But yeah, we're
maybe before, but we're definitely doing it.
Yeah, we'll do Men in Black one of these days.
And he kind of just, he kind of gets back because they start doing the thing. The Gobbler's Knob people start doing the official stuff, and Phil kind of gives a running commentary to Rita. He's like, they knock on the door with a cane. Again, like we said, they're dressed to the nines. Like, they got top hats. They look like they're out of the late 19th century.
We got Brian Doyle Murray playing Buster. He's the officiant of the Groundhog Day celebration. He's the one that reads the scroll that was apparently written very quickly by Phil the Groundhog.
By Phil. Yeah, I'm not sure how all that works, to be honest.
Yeah.
This guy's actually in a lot of Harold Ramis movies, too, because he was in Ghostbusters 2, Caddyshack, Multiplicity. Not a Harold Ramis movie, but he was also in Stuart Little and Jury Duty.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Talk about animal movies, the 90s, early 2000s. He was also in Snow Dogs with Cuba Gooding Jr.
He was in Snow Dogs with Cuba Gooding Jr.
Anyway, that's how Cuba Gooding Jr.'s career went after Jerry Maguire.
Yep. He decided to go for some animal movies.
Well, and they don't really bring up radio. They bring up radio in Tropic Thunder.
Yes, they do. They do mention radio in Tropic Thunder.
He didn't even get nominated. Sean Penn at least got nominated for a second.
Yeah.
Enough about that. We will do Tropic Thunder one of these days.
Yes, we will do Tropic Thunder one of these days. That movie.
We will not be doing radio. I know we say we might do some of the worst movies ever made.
Yeah, but I think we're gonna skip radio. We're gonna skip radio. We're not gonna do Radio Flyer either. I know there are some people that love that movie, but to me, it's just depressing.
No, we're not doing Radio Flyer. Anyway, so we got Buster Green. You know, he's the lead guy there, and Gobbler's Knob. And again, you know, they tap out, like, there's a door. There's a door in this tree stump.
Yes, there's a door in this tree stump.
So this is the point I was going to bring up. At some point in the 1970s, Phil decided to forego roughing it in the great outdoors and moved into the custom-built climate-controlled burrow in the Punxsutawney Memorial Library.
Huh.
So does he actually live in the library? And then they just,
I guess,
like, the night before or that morning, they transport him into that tree stump?
Yeah, I mean, because that tree stump is kind of small to be climate controlled.
Yes. I can't think that, given his notoriety, that he would want to live in that tree stump.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot of room for him to move around in there. You know, it seems like a very uncomfortable home.
I mean, he's the most prominent weatherman. He's even more prominent than the other Phil.
Yeah,
played by Bill Murray.
Yeah, Punxsutawney Phil is way more prominent than Pittsburgh Phil.
If Pittsburgh Phil can get himself moved up to the bed and breakfast, Punxsutawney's Phil should be able to get himself moved up into better accommodations.
Yeah, like the Four Seasons or something.
Yeah.
So Phil goes through.
There's a whole scroll. Like you said, there's a whole scroll.
Yeah.
Right? And
Buster reads the scroll, reveals that
I've never actually listened to kind of the presentation. I'm guessing this is kind of how it goes, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the whole thing, and like he's reading something that apparently the Groundhog wrote without opposable, even though he has no opposable thumbs.
Yeah, but
or maybe he spoke it and someone else transcribed it and then handed it.
Like they had a stenographer right there.
Yeah,
and they just typed it out real quick.
But couldn't they just have like the Groundhog just whisper it in the ear?
Yeah,
and then he can read it. Or does the scroll make it look official?
Because the scroll, I guess the scroll makes it official, but it's a scroll that was clearly made beforehand.
But has it been notarized?
Apparently, but we never saw a notary there. Because they pulled him out of there. They pulled Phil out of the tree stump with the door on it.
Which begs more questions. Like, okay,
right after they pulled him out of there, then Buster opened up the scroll. We never saw Phil writing the scroll.
No,
we never saw any of that. We never saw a notary come over and put his little stamp on there. Yeah. I mean, did Phil actually, do all this before the ceremony? Is the ceremony, just something that they do after the fact?
All right. So, I have a thought. This is any budding filmmakers out there. You know the movie Pooh, Blood and Honey?
Mm-hmm. Like the horror movie.
There's got to be a horror movie out there where Phil just gets tired of being pulled out of his tree stump.
Yeah.
every year on February 2nd.
Yep.
And he just goes crazy and just massacres the entire town. And then now you have 2 movies you could watch on Groundhog's Day.
Yeah.
You can either watch Groundhog Day or you can watch February the 2nd. Whatever title you want to give it. I'm saying February the 2nd to kind of harken towards Friday the 13th.
Yes,
good slasher movie of Groundhog Day.
Yeah. Punxsutawney Phil, the groundhog that will put you in the ground.
And then you get the sequels where you get other animals, and finally the Easter Bunny snaps.
Yep.
Now, grant Easter rotates throughout the year, but same general time.
Yeah, same general time. Yeah.
You can get Flag Day where there's just a flag.
Yeah. I mean, we have the Leprechaun movies. Those exist already.
You could do President's Day, it's like a kind of a reimagining of the movie Dead Presidents.
Yep.
Where you actually have dead presidents.
Yep.
We had the Abraham and Lincoln Vampire Slayer movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Columbus Day.
All right then. So
Columbus comes back from the dead and gives everybody gonorrhea again. I gotta say, I'm impressed where we have gone with this movie. Me too.
So, we get the scroll. Punxsutawney Phil, the seer of seers, prognosticator of prognosticators, emerged reluctantly, but alertly. Again, reluctantly.
Yes, reluctantly. He is tired of being pulled out of this tree stump.
In Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, and sitting in Groundhogese. So, Groundhogese, there's a groundhog language we don't know about.
I guess. Where do you learn Groundhogese? Can you major
this?
Yeah.
Are there certain colleges that give you like a PhD in Groundhogese, or at least you can get like a bachelor's in it?
Yeah, because I mean, somebody has to speak it in order for them to transcribe it.
Yeah. I definitely see a shadow. I love how then he goes back, and now Phil, the other Phil, Very Phil, he's ready again, right? And he's like, we can't capture the actual excitement of the moment. It's like, I for one am very grateful to be here to see a large squirrel predict the weather. And they go off, and that's it. Like, he's ready to leave.
Yeah,
he's like, I'm gonna get back in this van.
So they get in the van and they start driving out. But before they can get out of town, the blizzard hits. And they start approaching like a tunnel, and there's like a tractor trailer that's turned over. And they can't get out of town.
And they're stopped. They're approaching just as like they're starting to shut down the highway. Like, they're one of the first kind of like cars that's like, or vehicles that's approaching where they're shutting it down.
Yeah.
So he gets out, and he doesn't get his jacket on, right? So he's cold. He's kind of in the snow, and he's shivering, and he's just talking to like the state trooper that's there. It's like, no, you gotta, like, you're not getting through. You gotta turn around, Tony. I love how he's like, and I love how Bill's like, he's shivering. He's like, because again, it's cold out. He's just has like his suit on. He's like, I make the weather. Right. So they gotta turn around.
They have no choice but to stay at least one more night in Punxsutawney.
Before they get out, I love how like Larry's, just feels like, what's going on here, right? Larry just has like, perhaps that blizzard we're not supposed to get. Chris Elliott is like kind of unsung in this movie.
Yeah, he is.
He has little lines here or there, and when he delivers them, they're awesome.
Yeah.
So they gotta go back, so again they asked him, like, because they decided, all right, we're gonna be stuck here, and it's obviously it's a big day there, and so Punxsutawney has like a dinner and gala, some type of event that night, right? And they want to know, are you gonna go to it? He's like, no, I'm not. And it's funny, like they reference this, and we don't actually see it until the very end of the movie.
All right. That's right.
Until he scores.
Yes.
With
Yes.
Andie MacDowell.
Yes.
Well, we'll get to that. That's jumping forward a little bit, but
yeah. So
he goes to bed.
Yeah, he goes to bed and wakes up to Sonny and Cher at 6 a.m.
It's like he's like, oh, it's playing again.
Yeah.
It's like, all right.
He
And again,
gets up.
like he, it's not. He didn't want to be there February 3rd, but he's like, okay, whatever. He gets up.
Then we hear the two
and
DJs
then they
bantering
start
again on the
saying
radio.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Which, like, okay.
Okay. Yeah.
That's one thing to hear the same song. All right. You know what? He just like, you know what? Maybe this week they're just playing Sonny and Cher right before 6 o'clock every morning.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever.
So, he gets ready, walks out in the hall, and Man in Hallway is standing there again.
He's like,
Greets
off
him.
to the Groundhog.
Off to the Groundhog. And yeah, so he's okay. Goes down, gets his coffee, has the same conversation with Mr. Lancaster again.
Right. And then he's like, she says the same thing. Did he sleep well, Mr. Connors? He's like, and this time, of course, he's saying it differently. Right.
Yeah.
And this is where it kind of gets fun watching this movie. It's like they're the supporting characters.
Mm-hmm.
Dialogue's kind of, their stuff's kind of saying the same thing, but he's aware of it being different. And so his stuff changes.
Yeah.
So he repeats the question, did I sleep well? And then she didn't really respond to that. She's like, oh, she gets back to do you want some coffee?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, please. Right. I think I'll have it like a double. Right. And then, she says like, I hope you enjoy, the festivities. And, oh, this is talking about Blizzard. Right. And now all of a sudden, he's like, that's when he actually decides to ask the question. Like, have you ever experienced deja vu?
Mm-hmm.
Like, no. As he said, not experiencing. Do you have deja vu? She's like, no, I don't think so. I can check with the kitchen.
Yeah, I can check with the kitchen.
She thinks the food.
Yep. So he goes out. Ned Ryerson approaches him again.
Yep.
And this time he actually says, Ned?
Before that,
Ned Ryerson?
Before that, she asked him, like, are you leaving the day? Because she asked it the day before, too.
Yes, that's right.
And he said, like, oh, chances are 100%. And
Yep.
this time he's like, chances are 90%.
90%. Yep.
And then he sees it. Then he goes on and he sees Ned. And Ned does the same thing.
Yeah. Ned approaches him.
Connors!
But this time he's like,
that was you.
This time he's like, Ned? Ned Ryerson?
Bing! First shot out of the box. Which again, now, so like both cases now, because his responses changed a bit, their responses change a bit, right? Whatever. So,
yeah, so
but the rest of it's kind of the same
and
thing.
He steps in the puddle again.
No, now. And he's like, sell insurance. Bing again.
Yep. So he steps in the pothole puddle again. Goes to the.
This time it's the same thing. Watch that first step.
It's a doozy.
And then he gets there and he sees Rita, he sees Larry, and now he's like, you need to slap me in the face.
Yeah. And Rita does it without hesitating.
It's like, all right. I haven't slapped a man in a while. I'll slap you. You're a jerk. He's like, how was that? It's like, oh, that's good. He's like, well, I can always slap you in the other cheek if you need it. Right.
Yep. So he, does the report again on the Groundhog. This time he's like, it is Groundhog Day again.
Must mean we're at Gobbler's Knob again. Right.
So he gets through it. And then, there wasn't a whole lot more to this go around, was there?
But no. But then we do a third day.
Yeah. The third day is where things really start to change.
Yes. And again, we get the same thing where it flips over to February 2nd.
I love that slow motion shot.
They do like
I love that up close with the
that's not
slow motion. No, it's
right?
later in the movie. Yeah, but I love that where it's a close up on the little numbers and you just
and then
slow motion
get the
flip.
slow music and then it flips over and you kind of get the big boom. Right. So anyway,
so this time he gets up, goes, gets ready. Kind of just walks past Man in Hallway.
Yep. Nope. Doesn't even bother him.
Doesn't even bother to, Man in Hallway tries to ask him, going to see the Groundhog? But he just walks right by him. Goes down, gets his coffee. Mrs. Lancaster asks him if he's leaving today. And This time, didn't he just say, "Why don't you hold my room for me?" Or was that later?
Yeah, that is later. This time I think he bolts out to get. Yeah, he doesn't really speak with her here.
That's
right.
right.
Asks her, she sleeps well, right? And then he just leaves, right? And then he sees Ned again. It's like, I sure as heck don't, like he's not even really talking with Ned. He's just zooming by again, right? It's like, don't you say you don't remember me? It's like, it's the same line again. It's me, Ned Ryerson, right?
And he steps in the puddle again. He just
keeps talking about Ned's kind of saying the same things as the first couple days, but he's not talking.
Yep. Steps in the puddle again because he still hasn't learned that that's a pothole.
And we should I should make one other note. So there's an important aspect that we see kind of down here in the town when he sees Ned, because when he starts at the block, but he meets Ned, and he goes down when he gets in the puddle. There is a homeless man at the corner.
Yes.
That we see each of these times as well.
Yes.
He will be important later for this movie.
Yes, he will.
And there is a lady, I think, in this third time when he comes out, that's kind of walking across the street near the bed and breakfast. And he just asks her, like, where's everybody going? And she's just like, off to see the groundhog. Right? We kind of see her again later, crossing the street at a different point, but we don't really.
Well, that was the second time. The first repeat. The second time. That's the first repeat when he asked the lady.
Correct.
Because that's what clued him into, it's Groundhog Day again.
So finally, he gets to Gobble Snop again, and now he's talking to Rita. He's like,
Yeah, this time he's like, you do the report. And he goes to a diner.
Yeah, he's like, when you finish, meet me in the diner. So they do the report, and she's there. He's like, what was that all about? He's like, he's like, I don't know. Right? And there's a waitress there, and the waitress name is Doris.
Doris, the waitress.
Played by Robin Duke. Who did Saturday Night Live and SCTV. Schitt's Creek as well. So, she was on Saturday Night Live in the early 80s, and I've watched kind of that time period. Kind of after the first kind of like peak of Saturday Night Live, like the early 80s probably is not as well known. After like the original cast kind of start doing other things, right?
Yep.
So, they're talking there at the diner, and Rita is enamored with the sticky buns. They're heaven.
Yes.
Right?
Is this when he has the table full of food, or is that?
No, this is later.
That's
later in the movie. He's like, you know what? I'm just going to have a day where I'm going to eat all the food I want.
Yeah.
Right? So we don't get that yet. Right? And he just says, like, I'm reliving the same day over and over. It's Groundhog Today. And of course, she's like, okay. She thinks it's a joke. Like, a normal person would think, okay, this person's joking with me.
Yeah.
This guy's a jerk, right? He thinks very highly of himself. I'm kind of new here. He's playing me, right? It's a joke.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not a joke. It's like, no, this is the third day I've done this. And I don't think it's at this point where he's kind of timed things off.
It is. So it is because it's the third day that he meets up with Gus and the other guy at the bar, where he goes to the bar that night. He goes to the bar later that night.
There's still talking. There's things that happen in the diner that after this point he kind of remembers for the next time.
Yes.
To talk about.
He gets up to walk out and he sees a woman
and
sitting.
Someone drops a tray full of things.
Yeah.
So that's one of the key events that happens in the diner that he can reference back to.
Yeah. And is this when he stops and talks to Nancy?
No, not yet.
Yeah, that's right. That's later.
Because they're still talking about different things, and like she's like, okay, well, she still thinks he's gonna go back to Pittsburgh. It's like, so you know what? We're gonna finish talking Pittsburgh, and he's like, I'm not going back to Pittsburgh, right? And she's like, well, why not? Oh, the blizzard. And she's like, you said that's gonna hit Altoona. It's like, I know what you said, right? And I need help, right? So. That's right, because even before that, there's the Yeah, this is when he starts meeting the specialist. He doesn't meet the other guys yet at the bar, right? He sees a who's the first guy he sees? He sees that's right, the neurologist first. The neurologist is
Yes.
played by Harold Ramis,
Yes.
and because he gets a CAT scan of his brain. There's no lesions in his brain, right? All right, that's reasonable. Yeah, maybe I have a lesion in my brain, and it's just making me hallucinate all this.
But nope, nothing's
So
wrong.
he sees a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist is not trained in it. He just sees a bunch of alcoholics, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the psychiatrist. Who's the psychiatrist? I don't think I know who plays the psychiatrist. No, there it is. David Pasquisi plays the psychiatrist. Father of the Bride, Strangers with Candy, Employee of the Month, The Watcher. So, another Chicago veteran. Probably all these SCTV people. Second City. So, anyway. All right, so, no, that makes sense. So then at this point, you know what? He's like, he doesn't know what to do. And then I think this is when he goes to
Yeah, this is when he goes to the bar and meets Gus.
the bar. Is that night? Yeah. So he, he meets Gus and Gus's friend.
Yes.
Who's Gus's friend? I don't know. I can't remember his name.
Gus's friend.
Ralph.
It's Ralph.
Phil gets
Yes.
drunk with locals, Gus and Ralph. And they're in like at a bowling alley.
Rick DeCommon and Rick Overton. Both Ricks.
Yep. And they're at a bowling alley. It looks like it's probably like the kind of central Punxsutawney or whatever you want to call it. And they're just kind of talking. And they're drinking. He's not. They get drunk. And he just talks about like, do you feel like you're doing the same thing over and over again? And these are just like blue collar people that are probably working some a factory job or something. And you're like, I know what you mean.
You know, Gus is probably doing some sort of like electrical work.
So they leave, and Phil realizes, well, they're too drunk. They shouldn't drive. But then he's like, it's really more about him just wanting to drive and having fun.
Yeah. But I love it how I love how Gus and Ralph kind of go back and forth on who's driving. He's like, you're too drunk to drive. Okay, I'll drive. Oh, yeah. Maybe I am too drunk to drive.
Perfect. It's perfect. We had the Mighty Ducks where we have Emilio drinking and driving in a kids movie.
Yep.
So, hey, what's this? What's this?
So Phil decides he's going to take the keys and he's going to drive because he hasn't been drinking. And so while they're driving, he's like, he's breaking all kinds of traffic laws and like, what are you doing? And he's like, well, you ever live like there's no tomorrow? Because, there is no tomorrow. Yeah, so he's driving all crazy. They get chased by a cop.
Yep, cop sees him. He's going fast, and he's driving up on the shoulder and on the median. And of course, it's like late at night. The cop's just thinking it's probably someone that's drunk.
Yep,
it's not someone that's drunk.
So
there's drunk people in the car.
Yep, but Phil's not drunk.
But they get arrested. You see him put into
first he's driving all over the place. Ends up driving onto the train tracks.
That's right. That's before the car. That's right.
He's driving straight toward an oncoming train, while the cop is right behind him on the tracks. And he swerves and avoids the train at the last second. But they never show what happens to the cop right behind him.
No, they don't.
They never show what happens to the cop right behind him. Did the cop car get hit by the train or did it make it off the tracks? Did he just murder an officer of the law?
And would it matter? Anyway.
So he gets arrested, put in jail, falls asleep on his cot.
He gets put in. Yep. They put him in the little cell. And again, it's like a little county jail.
Yep.
They put him in there. He's got a little cot.
Falls asleep, wakes up in the bed and breakfast. So this time, when he gets up, he goes downstairs and he starts asking Mrs. Lancaster if anybody followed him home. You know, people in blue uniforms with police hats.
That's right.
She's like, nope, nobody followed you home. Like, okay, good. Nobody followed you back here.
I'd be remiss. So I forgot when they get pulled over. So when they're at the bar, like before they leave, like go for some flapjacks.
Yes, that's right.
Right. So they get pulled over. The cop comes up. He's like, he's just ordering like he's at like he's like 2 cheeseburgers and then like some flapjacks. And he's like, "In some flapjacks."
And some flapjacks.
Anyway, so yeah, he's like, "Yep." He's like, right, he hears the gun, and then yeah. Now he's talking with her down there, and it's like, yeah, he's looking. He asks about any cops or not really cops. Anyone in blue hat, gun, nightstick.
Yeah, blue hat, gun, nightstick. It's like no, nobody followed you. It's like, okay, thanks. And then this is when he's walking out. She's like, Are you going home today, or are you going to stay another night? He's like, you know what? Why don't you just go ahead and hold my room for me tonight?
Yeah, hold my room. I'm staying an extra day. For 33 years. Hey, she should be happy. She's old. Mm-hmm. She's going to live well past 100.
Yes. So,
is that when the next time? I think this is the time when he's walking there, and then he's like, Bill?
And he just punches Ned. He's like, Ned, and then just punches him in the face.
So like, Ned, and he just does a right hook. And I think this is the scene.
Yeah, this is when they get to the diner and he's got all the food.
And he's got everything.
He's got all the food on the table.
She looks like, I love to see someone like you just throwing caution to the wind.
Yeah. But yeah, he's like, Rita, I'm a god. And she's like, you're not God. He's like, I didn't say I'm God. I said I'm a God.
It said a God. Listen to the article. And just ask for the coffee to keep on coming. It's just, he's got the table stacked high with donuts.
Yep.
Right?
He's got cake. He's got all kinds of, like, everything that's on the menu.
He's like, aren't you worried about cholesterol? He's like, why? It's like, no, he's smoking also.
Yeah.
Right? He's just, it's like, you don't worry about lung cancer?
Like, no, why?
There's other little lines here. She's like, no. It's like, what makes you special that you don't worry about anything? It's like, that's what makes you special. I don't worry about anything. I don't even floss. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then
Larry comes in and
quoting something from a poem.
Yes.
The wretch concentrated all in self. Living shall forfeit fair renown. Doubly dying shall go down to the vile dust from whence he sprung. Unwept, unhonored, and unsung. Sir Walter Scott. She's like, you don't like poetry? Like, I love poetry. I just thought that was Willard Scott. So anyway, but yeah, so she still thinks he's self-centered.
Yep.
Again, at this point, like, we've forgotten about that. He's trying to find his way to the down under of Andie MacDowell.
Yep.
But again, you know what? At this point, he's just more concerned about just living each day fully in a different way.
Yep. Because he's well aware that he's in a time loop now, that he's reliving the same day over and over. So he's starting to throw caution to the wind. And this is when he gets up and he passes by a woman sitting in a booth.
Well, at a table. Because Larry comes in. He's like, oh, we should leave. He's like, you know what? No, I'm going to stay here. Give me a doggy bag. Right? And that's when he leaves. That's right. It's right after that. After Larry, like that's when he sees. Like, what's your name? She's like, Nancy Taylor.
Like, where do you go to high school, Nancy? Yeah, and she tells him, and she thinks it's an awkward conversation. But he gets up and walks out.
He's obviously he gets some pieces of information.
Yeah.
It's obviously he's just mining for information. Like he's acting like Ned.
Yeah,
but he's actually mining for information.
Yes,
at least Ned actually knew Phil.
Yeah, but did he though? Did he?
That's a good question.
Or
that's a good point.
Or was Ned reliving the same day over and over before Phil was? Did Ned pass the curse onto Phil?
Oh, whoa. And now there's just an alternate Ned that is reliving this day with Phil.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the actual Ned, he's back on February 3rd, and it's 2026 by the time Phil gets out of it.
Yeah.
Ned has built an insurance empire.
Yep.
And he's just waiting until 2028 to become president of the United States.
Yeah. Yeah.
There you go.
Because they never explain what it was that really caused the time loop.
Which I love about it is they don't explain it.
Me too. And with the way that Phil acts with Nancy, it really kind of makes you wonder, was Ned living in a time loop and did the same thing with Phil to get him to believe that they went to high school together and then ended up passing the time loop curse onto Phil?
Yeah. Anyway, so
then I guess that begs the question, did Ned bang Rita?
That's another movie.
Someone
should make that
or
movie.
is there somebody else in Ned's life that he had to sleep with in order to end his time loop?
Yes. Maybe it was Nancy.
Maybe it was Nancy. Maybe it was Phil.
Maybe it was Phil's sister. He had to get Phil's sister into Punxsutawney somehow. He had to get Phil to bring her in. Anyhow. Now we get a series of Phil manipulating things to his advantage and using it. He's getting knowledge from people.
Yep.
He's throwing caution in the wind. As we talked about Nancy, he finally can got enough on her to decide to have a one-night stand with her.
Yeah. And
they have a night of hot romance where he continues to call her Rita instead of Nancy, and she's like, "It's Nancy."
Apparently, Nancy and Rita are two completely different names.
He remembers well enough later when they're talking about, in the there's a later scene in the diner where exactly when she gets excited, how she responds. So, yeah. But at this point now, obviously, I don't know how many days we've gone through, but
because there's a little bit of a montage going on.
Yeah, there's a montage, and obviously, as we talked about earlier, like there's obviously other things going on that we don't see other days.
Yeah,
and he just kind of gets bored with all of it. So, like a lot of people, they get bored with things. Like it's like, this is the end. Like, what purpose is there to this?
So then he tries. Then there's a montage of him just finding different ways to kill himself because he knows
we get the first one where he actually see him go ahead. He kidnaps the other Phil.
Yes, he kidnaps Punxsutawney Phil,
and they go on a chase
because they're like after the ceremony, they're putting him back in his little cage and putting him in the back of the truck, the pickup truck, and so he just hops in the cab of the truck and drives away with Phil
Rita
there
and Larry driving after him. Right, they get Buster and a bunch of the other Gobbler's Knob people chasing after him, and then they get cops chasing after him.
And so then he lets Phil drive. And he lets Phil drive. He puts Phil on his lap and lets him steer. Hey. And a little groundhog trying to see over the steering wheel.
The two of them are having fun. Both Phils this is the most fun they've had in a long time.
And they get to a quarry, and the cops think that they have him pinned. And there's a big pile of rocks that's shaped very much like a ramp.
Conveniently.
Right at the edge of the quarry. So he, pulls back, revs the engine, and just takes off, goes up this pile of rocks, and jumps into the pit. And the truck, flies out there and crashes to the ground. And Buster's like, "Oh well, they could have survived that." And then the truck explodes.
And then Larry's like, "Not anymore."
Oh yeah, that's right. It was Larry that said, "Oh, he could have survived that." And of course, Buster is terrified for the groundhog.
Yes, because the next groundhog might not be as accurate as Phil. And I think this is that montage where you get before this is during the montage where it slowly turns over.
Yeah,
right. That's like no. I've heard enough of Sonny and Cher.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, listen. That would be the worst part of all of this, is to wake up to Cher every day.
Yeah, I mean, once or twice wouldn't be too bad hearing that song, but if it's every day song. When you wake up, just repetitive, just repeating over and over and over and over.
It wouldn't be as bad as hearing like Yoko Ono screech.
Yeah, though.
I mean, there's other songs that would be, that's, I guess there's a point about this movie too. I never thought about, like, what other song would you just wake up to every day that, like, okay, no, I've had enough of this.
A fitting one for the movie, but it would be a little bit too on the nose, would be If I Could Turn Back Time.
What if he woke up every morning to "Everybody Wing Chun"? Everybody Wing Chun tonight.
Yep.
Or one of my favorite episodes, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Everything you do,
I do it for you.
No, sorry, Bryan Adams. I love you, Bryan Adams. Sorry. I would wake up every day to you, Bryan Adams. You could, or it could be. It could be even better though. Like Back to the Future, like The Power of Love. I would wake up every morning to Huey Lewis in the news.
Oh yeah. Because I mean, hey, that's the power of love.
It's the power of love.
Gonna go back in time.
Back in time. Your cousin Marvin Berry. You know that new sound you've been looking for?
So anyway, he
finally gets to today where, he's back in the diner. He's with Rita, and now he's finally explaining everything that's happening in that loop. Like, he knows specifically what's going to happen about plates breaking, and then he goes around to everybody in there, and he knows their backstories, and all of them are confused. Like, they're kind of scared.
How do you know?
How do you know about this about me? Right? Right, and that's when he goes to even like Nancy. He's like, "Oh yeah," and when she gets excited, she does this, and she's like, "Wait, what? How do you know I like to do that when I'm having sex?"
Yep.
Right.
So it makes you wonder how many one night stands he had with Nancy.
That's a. And how do you qualify that? Like, for her, it's a one night stand.
Yeah. For him, it's a relationship.
What do you call it for him? Did he like just contract chlamydia?
For him, it's a 51st dates relationship.
Drew Barrymore's not in this movie. Not even Sean Astin or Adam Sandler, I guess. But it's all new. It's all new for Drew Barrymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which it would be all new for Nancy, and so he would have to explain to her every day.
You gave me chlamydia again. Anyway, so yeah, but then like that ends up becoming like, this is when like finally he kind of starts changing his attitude.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, because now he's actively trying to get with Rita. He's actively trying to impress her and to appeal to her and to be the kind of guy that she would desire.
Well, okay, but here's the question, because we'll shortly get to this, but it's like he's drawing attention to her. Like maybe he kind of thinks just she's the, as you said earlier, the gatekeeper. Mm-hmm. So if I could theoretically, sincerely, air quotes, woo her.
Yeah. Maybe I'll
unlock her gate. And
maybe one of these mornings when he saw Ned, he sat him down and he had a talk with him, and Ned explained the whole time loop thing and how he got out of it. And so then, Phil's like, okay, well, I need to spend the night with Rita.
Yeah. And so they spend the night and they play in the snow.
Mm-hmm.
They literally play in the snow.
Yes.
That's not a metaphor.
No, they build a snowman, and then some kids start throwing snowballs at them.
Hanky-panky going on in the snow.
They're building a snowman. Some kids throw some snowballs at them, so they get in a snowball fight with the kids.
And then always weird,
little rapscallions.
Unlike Dumb and Dumber, he does not make a carrot cock with coal.
No. No.
We've done a lot of winter movies lately, haven't we?
We have. Well, I mean, it's winter right now. So.
It is winter. Yes. I mean, Die Hard, Christmas movie,
mm-hmm.
Groundhog Day, Groundhog movie. Dumb and Dumber just made sense.
Yep.
Here we are. Anyhow. Yep. And so they go back up to their room, and then his room, not her room, his room at the bed and breakfast. And, she talks about how, maybe if you are spending, day after day doing the same thing, it's not a curse, but it's a blessing.
Yeah.
All right. And then she ends up just falling asleep. And then he falls asleep. And
well, no, because this is when they had the argument, isn't it?
No, the first time is not an argument. She just falls asleep.
Okay.
She's tired.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. She falls asleep. He falls asleep.
Doing all types of things together.
Yeah. Then he wakes up and she's not there. Because it started the day over again. So,
and then this is not, what?
Yeah.
This time I'm just going to try to go ahead and just sleep with her.
Yeah. So he almost
have an argument.
Almost gets there, but
because he uses the information she gave him the day before about poetry and music and all these other things that she likes.
Mm-hmm.
But he forces it. It's not natural.
Yeah, he forces it, and then she realizes what he's trying to do.
It's like, he just wants me for my vagina. I mean,
yeah.
It's always a gateway to the next day, somehow.
Yeah. So, she leaves him in the room, and she goes back to...
He wants me for February 3rd. Well, you know what? I'm just February 2nd.
Yep. She's like, I know that, I'm the key to him making it to February 3rd, so I'm not going to give him that satisfaction. I'm going to make him relive this day over and over again,
That's
and
right.
again and again and again.
And here's the thing is, I think he starts to do things just to find a way, in a Barney Stinson type of way, to seal the deal.
Yep.
So I'm going to sculpt ice. I'm going to learn French. I'm going to play the piano.
Yep. So
but he realizes that life needs to have some type of meaning.
Yeah, we never see him actually learning how to do the ice sculptures. We never see him learning French poetry. Lessons. We see him taking piano lessons.
He bribes the piano teacher to kick out the poor student.
Yes. And then, so
and
then
we see, not that first day, but the next, some other day, it's soon after that. That's still supposed to be his first day. And she's like, wow.
Well, you're good.
This is your first day?
Mm-hmm.
You're really good.
Yeah, so, how long can he carry on that ruse? Because the way that he plays at the end of the movie, he's clearly mastered the art of piano playing.
Well, the thing he would need, too, though, is not just, a practice, a lesson. He needs time to practice before and after that also.
Yeah.
So he could...
so maybe there's a few days there where, there's some of the loops that...
Wake up and spend all day practicing again, go to the lesson, practice again, and maybe he spends, 2 weeks, that's all he does.
Just practice, just sits in the room, plays the piano. Yeah.
He gets a piano somewhere.
Because I'm sure there's a piano somewhere at the bed and breakfast. It seems like the kind of place that would have a piano. Yeah,
that's a good point. Yeah. So he starts doing these things. And then we get to points where we kind of see man in the hallway again. Then he talks to the proprietor. But finally we kind of get back to the old man that we saw.
Yeah, the old homeless man.
And this is, I think, one of the strongest points of the movie for me. Because, he decides that, he sees him there. And there's different points where you see someone in the background maybe giving him like $1 or whatever. And now we get finally, it's late one night. And he decides to take him to the hospital. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And he waits there. And then, a nurse comes out. And it's like, I'm sorry, that man he brought in, like, he didn't make it. Right. Because he sees it, like, he goes there at night. Like, he keeps seeing the guy during the day. But he finally sees him at night. And, like, he's kind of passed out. He's, he's freezing to death, essentially.
Yeah.
So he brings him in, and he doesn't make it, right? And he doesn't believe it at first. And so next day, he tries to do it again. He gets in early in the day.
Yeah.
He takes him to the diner this time.
Yep.
Right? Instead of having his Rita,
gets him a meal.
He's spending the time with this old man.
Mm-hmm.
He's buying him soup and food and, all these things.
He's buying him like bowl after bowl of soup.
And then he sees him again at some point that day, brings him back to the hospital and dies again. And sometimes, like, the sign just says, like, sometimes people just die. And now you're getting hit heavy with these themes, like,
no matter what he does, he
people
can't save him. It's just his time. And so he's got to live with that. He's got to go on repeating this day over and over, knowing that this old man is going to die at the end of the day.
Right. And we don't see much from him. Like, I like to kind of think at some point, like, during most of these days, like, he's able to help the man in some way to have, knowing that this is the guy's last day, some type of meal or a drink to give him some type of happiness.
Yeah.
But we see instances where, like, he, like, catches a kid that falls from a tree.
Gives the guy the Heimlich.
Yeah. Right. So you see these instances where
he gives a young married couple tickets to WWF.
Right. Well, actually, we saw them earlier where he's talking with Rita in the diner.
Yeah.
We see them earlier. He's like, oh, yeah, they're nearly engaged, but she's having second thoughts.
Yeah.
But apparently, WrestleMania. So, WrestleMania is the key to
WrestleMania.
Get that guy's next day.
Yeah. Which, I mean, wasn't it? Because it wasn't the celebration at the end of the night. Wasn't that their wedding?
It was their wedding, or they're celebrating it. It's the Groundhog festivity, but they celebrate them during it, I think.
Yeah, because that was when he gives them the WrestleMania tickets.
That's
as a wedding present.
He doesn't do that yet.
But, yeah.
But which is great, so we'll get to that because we're getting close to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we finally get back to a loop where we see him reporting on the festivities again, right? Which we haven't seen since,
since he
the
stole
whole middle section of the movie.
Yeah.
You don't really see him do it. You see him kind of do it the first 3 or 4 days, and that's about it.
But then once we see him steal the groundhog,
kidnap the groundhog.
Yeah,
you don't see him do the report. We see him kidnap the groundhog, right? And then we kind of drop off that again. And we finally get a thing where he goes, he's eloquent. He's philosophical about it.
Yeah.
Phil.
Yeah, Phil. Philosophical.
So he's eloquent. Everyone stops. They listen to him. The other news stations and other crews, they hear him going through, and everyone kind of applauds about it. And he continues to, help people during that day. And now that, we get back to that night, and they're kind of at the party, and, he's playing the piano because he learned it, right?
Yeah.
And his teacher's there.
He's playing the piano beautifully. And here's what I don't get.
Loves it.
The piano teacher, she, leans over to the person next to her. She's like, that's my student. But here's the thing. If at this point he's that good, would he have stopped by her house for one last lesson that day?
Point. Yes. So this is my point, because we're going to get into it, because he does this. They're at the thing. They get to the bar area, and she starts realizing all these people know Phil.
Mm-hmm.
But he has spent the last, again, we said 33 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Learning what he needs to do about everybody in town and everything else that Rita likes, and impressing Rita. And again, for each of them, it's a normal day. Not 33 years. It's a normal day. So he would have to be able to impress all those people within a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
To get them to come there and be impressed by him and cheer him on what he does. And
there's so many people there, and only 24 hours in a day.
And everyone's talking about they know him really well.
Yeah.
I could see maybe here. I mean, again, and it's a fantasy, so we shouldn't get that hung up on it, I guess. If he's reliving the same week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, maybe he's had the week to be able to kind of do the things to get people oh yeah. Okay.
No, but he's living a day over and over, 24 hours, and he's got the whole
in
town.
A day, he wakes up at 6. So that gives him 18 hours. But guess what? This is before midnight, so we don't even have those 18 hours.
Yeah.
We have about 12 hours.
Mm-hmm. He's got the whole town loving him. The piano teacher, bragging that he's her student, even though he really should not have been at her house learning that day because he's already that good. He has no need to go and take a lesson from her that day.
Yep.
Because, yeah, they anytime that he relives the day, they don't remember what happened before because it's back to their first time living that day.
Yep. I'll be your best. I almost forgot about this part. This part made me laugh. It was one of the scenes where he's talking with Rita on one of the days. He's asking about what a perfect man would be for her. Mm-hmm. And I love it because she's like, and he changes poopy diapers. And he's like, does he have to use the word poopy? Looking through, I saw that. I was like, oh, that's right. Yeah, I like that part.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So then at this party, they have an auction. They decide that they have an auction to sell off men for dates to women. And so the first one they call up is Phil. And all the ladies are clamoring to buy Phil. And so, they got a couple of them that are going back and forth. And then Rita, she's like $317.23 or whatever it is, because that's all she has on her.
All she has. And that's where they end the bidding.
Yep. And then that's where they end the bidding because the other two ladies that are, they're fighting over him, they can't top that.
There's septuagenarians. They're in the 70s. Yeah. They're not going to do it.
So Rita
for Phil, because
Rita wins
I doubt
Phil.
they have the gate to February 3rd.
Yeah. So Rita wins Phil, and then they get Larry up there.
Poor Larry.
And nobody wants to buy Larry.
Except one of the old ladies.
Except one of the old ladies, yeah.
She has like, what, $2 or something like that.
Yeah. Because, don't they start the bidding on Larry at like 50 cents or something like that?
Yeah.
Something like extremely low.
I forgot the other part where he learns, there's the bartender there. We see him several times. Mm-hmm. Right? Because the first time we see him, they order separate drinks.
Yep.
The next day, he knows what she drinks. So
yes, that's right. Yeah.
He orders it. And then when they do it again, you get the look on the order. Again, it's not like the bartender's living the same day, but you can tell, oh, yeah, this guy knows there's the drink. He's just trying to, anyway.
Yeah.
So, anyway, Larry doesn't really get bid on. Phil does, which is a shame because Larry's a nice guy.
Yeah, Larry is a nice guy.
He's not a bad guy.
He just looks a lot like Chris Elliott, and I guess that's not their thing.
Hey, you can blame him. All right. So now Phil, he used his piano skills earlier. Now he's going to use his face sculpting skills. And he sculpts an image of Rita.
Yes, on a snowball. Like he makes a big snowball and he sculpts her face into it.
And tells her that he loves her. Mm-hmm. And no matter what happens, if he's trapped in the loop forever, he's happy because he loves her.
Yep.
They kiss and they go to his room. Where what happens in the room?
They bang like there's no tomorrow.
Do they? Do we see them bang?
They get it on. They get it on like Donkey Kong.
Man in the hallway hears them.
Yes.
Just has to report it.
Everybody in this bed. This is not a big bed and breakfast. Everybody hears it. Everybody hears what they're doing. Yeah. They're banging on the headboard. They're just like animals.
Phil, Ned even hears it. He comes in and he's like, Phil
Connors?
Right? You might pull a muscle. I don't know if life insurance is going to cover that.
Yep. But yeah, so they're doing the wild monkey dance while watching MVP, Most Valuable Primate.
It's late at night. Anyway, no. They just go in the room. They share a kiss.
Yeah. They never actually explicitly say that they banged. But...
But we get the clock.
It's strongly implied.
It's 6 o'clock.
First they're in bed. They're laying in the bed, and the clock turns to 12 to midnight.
That's right.
And Rita's like, "Wait, you're still here."
Like it's 6 o'clock.
It didn't. He's like, "Yeah, it's not midnight. It's 6 o'clock that it happens." So then it's strongly implied that they got it on.
Well, they strongly imply it. Rita does not strongly imply this.
Because he wakes up, it's 6 o'clock. It is once again Sonny and Cher on the radio.
I got you, babe.
And he's like,
point of the song. It's the
same point in the song. And you just see the look on his face like, again? And then he looks over and Rita is laying in the bed next to him. With sheets and stuff covering her bits. But yeah, she's in there because she clearly had sex with him that night. Because that is the only way to get out of this time loop.
Okay, so this is a Harold Ramis movie. He later directs Multiplicity with Michael Keaton with Andie MacDowell.
Yeah.
And there's like 4 Michael Keatons in that movie.
Yeah.
But they're clones, and they're clones of clones.
Yeah.
So is there
there's more than 4 Michael Keatons in that movie. Aren't there like 7 of them or something?
Yeah, there becomes more. Yes.
Each copy of a copy just gets dumber and dumber, and yeah.
So now, as far as we know in that movie, the only person banging Michael Keaton, only person banging Andie MacDowell is Michael Keaton number 1. Mm-hmm. He gets concerned about Michael Keaton number 2 banging.
Yes.
But is there a potentiality of how does that work? So I guess this is the only, they only banged the one time in this movie. So it's not like there's multiple Bill Murrays banging Andie MacDowell. Or would it be different versions of Andie MacDowell banging one Bill Murray?
No, because I think it only happened once, because that's what unlocked the time
That
loop.
is what unlocked. Let's just theoretically say
that's what unlocked the time loop.
Well, I guess let's bring it off of her. Nancy Taylor theoretically.
Yeah, Nancy Taylor
all the same
theoretically was. Yeah,
I guess theoretically it's multiple Nancy Taylors.
Yeah,
banging the one Bill. Anyway.
Yep. And then who knows who else in the town? In the 33 years that he was living this day over and over again.
Hey, he might have hooked up with Man in the Hallway.
He might have. He might have been like, you know what? Today I'm feeling some strange.
He went down to that radio station's like, hey, you know what? I feel like I know both of you.
Mm-hmm.
We play Sunny and Cher every morning. But the banter changed after, that's how he knows it's different, because the banter changes and he looks over and he sees Andie MacDowell.
Yep.
He tells her he loves her and he wants to live in Punxsutawney with her.
Yep.
And that's like the end of the movie, because then it just goes to clouds.
Yep. It goes to clouds. And
it's funny. Like, we've gone on a little bit about this movie, because there's actually a lot to talk about and you can get into a lot of possibilities.
Yeah.
The movie itself is like, what, an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes?
Yeah, something like that. It's not a long movie.
It's I think a lot like a lot of the movies we've covered recently. Like, you know what? They're not too long. They're exactly where they need to be.
Yeah.
Dante's Peak. You know what? We don't need to be a 2-hour movie.
No.
An hour, 40 minutes. Right? Dumb and Dumber. Nice, short, 90-minute laugh out loud comedy.
Yep.
This, it's again, there's a gimmick to it. And it doesn't overplay it, and it approaches it from different perspectives.
No. And it's a good length.
And then it ends.
Especially since it's a time loop movie. So if it went on longer than it actually is. Like, if it went on for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, that would just be way too long of watching the same thing happen over and over and over. But it's a good length.
This movie, it works well on multiple levels. If you just want to laugh, it works.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to watch something about someone that kind of learns something and ends up meeting the gatekeeper.
Yeah. And what we also didn't really...
And it works on a philosophical level.
What we also didn't really touch on a lot is, through all of this, he was learning to be a better person.
Yeah, that's the ultimate point, is to be a better person.
Now, some might say that is what let him out of the time loop. He finally became a better person. But we all know that that's not why. That's not what did
it. Hey, sometimes sex opens up a portal to Babylonian goddesses.
Yes.
Sometimes it just leads to February 3rd.
Yep. And Bill Murray experienced both.
Unlike the Mighty Ducks, and we've had a lot of these conversations lately.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually productive in terms of said bang.
Yes.
Bill Murray had to be there. Sorry, Emilio. No, you're not Bill Murray. Or I guess Rick Moranis, because he had the special key too.
Yes, he did. all Emilio got was, a kid.
Hey, James Bond got two.
A prepubescent kid that,
But yeah, no, that's Groundhog Day. Again, it's been forever, and I enjoyed watching it. And part is it works on those different levels.
Yeah,
Bill Murray's hilarious in it, and Chris Elliott's very funny in it too. We kind of talked about it. He's it's not a huge role, but he makes the most of his scenes.
Yes, he does.
Right.
Stephen Tobolowsky's amazing in it.
Is awesome. Then you got Andie MacDowell. She's again, she's not. I didn't realize she was actually a model also. So she's not a comedian, but she plays the role really well. She plays it straight.
She does.
And it needs that.
There's great chemistry between her and Bill Murray. Yeah.
Yes. She gives it heart. She's, she's amusing in her own way. And, like, you buy why Phil would want to fall in love with her.
Yeah, you do.
So, great little supporting cast. Good direction. It's funny. It works, if you really want to just work in the philosophical, existential angle on it, you could. Plenty of people have done that.
Mm-hmm. If you want to look deeper into it and, do the math and try to figure out, if you...
Maybe the person that said 33 years is wrong.
Maybe.
Honestly, that would be something well worth looking into. Yeah. That'd be, if you have the time.
Yeah, because originally Harold Ramis had said, he's stuck in there for about 10 years. But then later he went back. He's like, well, with all the stuff he learns, 10 years might be a little too short.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I like about movies. Like you can imagine, even though cover all of it, you can just kind of imagine even mundane aspects of, like, once he decides to not want to live it all up.
Yeah.
Or be completely depressed about all of it. Just mundane things of just learning about people.
Yeah.
Which he's never done before, apparently.
Yeah.
So, it's one of Bill Murray's finest movies.
It's definitely,
I love how finally
watch.
Bill Murray's gotten to the point that, he's just like a legend in some ways, because, he's had Ghostbusters, he's had Caddyshack, he's had Groundhog Day.
He's had Stripes.
He's had so many things. And it's funny, like it felt like after a while, like, you know what, I'm just not going to do as many movies that are important. And then he played himself in Zombieland.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep.
And that kind of helped take another aspect of his career. And people now he's just that legend.
Yeah.
And it's because of, this is one of those movies that helped make that legend.
Yes, it is. Yes,
and it's a movie, again, like I said, like, people can study it. Like, you have undergraduate courses that study it on its philosophy.
Yeah,
there's so many ways you can go with it.
Great movie, definitely worth a watch if you haven't seen it. If you have seen it,
no, seriously, like, I think it's a movie most people kind of know the basic premise.
Yeah,
because the Groundhog Day itself has kind of worked its way into this lexicon as something you relive over and over. So the premise is kind of known to people, but if you haven't seen it, you should watch it because it's touching, it's funny, and again, it's not a long movie. It knows exactly where it needs to end.
Yep.
So hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, so I think we covered about everything for it.
We covered that really well.
Yeah, we did. So, if you would like to follow us on social media, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram and Threads. We are Rob and Tony's Cinematic Adventure. The and is spelled out, A-N-D. It's not an ampersand like it is in the name of the podcast. We're also on X or Twitter. That is R&T Cinematic. And you can also find us on Letterboxd. If you want to see our reviews on different movies that, some we've talked about on here, some we haven't, some we will, some we won't. But that is Cine Adventure or Cine Adventure, C-I-N-E Adventure. And if you want to send us an email, let us know what you thought of Groundhog Day. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Do you watch it on a loop every Groundhog Day? Whatever you want to say about it, let us know. You can email us at robandtonyscinematicadventure@gmail.com. Once again, the and is spelled out. It's not an ampersand like it is in the name of the podcast. But yeah, let us know what you think, and let us know if there's movies that you think that we should cover on the podcast. If there's movies you don't think we should cover, whatever. We want to hear from you. We want to make these episodes that are pleasing to your ears. We want to have good discussions that you want to listen to. And yeah, so if you enjoy what you're hearing, then go to our social media, give us a like and a follow, go to your favorite podcast app, subscribe, leave us a good rating, a good review. That's how we move up in the standings and the ratings and the search and the recommendations, all that stuff.
Yes.
So that we can, reach a broader audience and get more people listening. But with the Oscars coming up, the Academy Awards, we're going to go into another little series of Best Picture winners throughout the years.
We've done a few already, but I'm excited about this next one.
Yeah. So the first Best Picture winner that we're going to be doing in this series is going to be Silence of the Lambs. So yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen this movie, so it's going to be great to revisit it.
I've seen this a lot, but it has been a while, so I'm very excited to talk about it. And there's a lot to go with it, including just the fact that the guy that plays no, never mind. We'll wait on that.
We'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that in the next episode. But anyway, so if you have not seen Silence of the Lambs yet, you've got time to watch it. And so join us next time for the Silence of the Lambs.